It's beginning of August, so I figured I'd give you a quick tour to show you what's happened in the garden so far and where we're at for the fall. Guess I'll start in this corner where we planted the pumpkin, and it's doing good. It's growing like a weed. It's all over the place. It circles around this way, a vine circles this way, and then there's just like vines all over the place. We've got a bunch of pumpkins growing, and the interesting thing about them is none are on the vines on the ground. They're all on the vines up in the air. Let me come in close. So this is there's the first one, and it's turning into a decent size already. These are, of course, sugar baby pumpkins, so they're not going to get very large, and that also they grow very quick. So that's why I planted them when I did, because you don't have as much time for them to grow. This one's coming along quite well. Others are on the outside of the fence here. The other two are right here, hanging right outside the gate, and they're starting to develop. This one I hand pollinated, as I did the one on the inside. This one got pollinated on its own, and there's quite a few fruits forming. Let's see if I can find you another one, because I was just walking through here before and noticed them. Well, like here's one on the outside. We might be able to get this one to pollinate because the flower looks like it might open. That's what I've had a lot of is, there we go, there's another one right there. We've had a lot of the fruit form, but the flowers never opened in time, and then they just rotted on the vine. But yeah, this is growing like a weed here, and it's starting to grow over towards the gate. Might have to corral this somehow. So as it turns out, planting the pickle bush cucumbers back here wasn't a good idea. They're growing, and you can see we got a lot of flowers there, but it's really very shaded in there. Same over here. Tough to see down there, but live and learn. I didn't quite think this pumpkin was going to get quite so wild as it did. The ones in the buckets are actually doing quite well. This is the pickle bush cucumber in the bucket, and we just saw a bee go in, but we've got a couple of good cucumbers, as a matter of fact. I think I'll take this one because it's about the size I want. Actually, it's a little bit bigger than what I want, but we can see there's another one right in there. It's growing, and that's probably close to the size I want, so I'll get that one too. I guess my biggest problem is, can you hang on to these until it's till you get like a bunch to harvest and then process? Because I mean, cucumbers, you know, they seem to go fast, like get bad fast. I'd like to have do more than one jar of cucumbers. I'm sure at some point I'm going to be overrun with cucumbers, but at the start it always seems a little slow, and then you're overrun. But I'd like to, save these, preserve them, hold on to them, store them until it's I get them all. But maybe I'll just be having some cucumbers instead of having pickles. This is the other cucumber plant, and it's got a cucumber as well. I was looking more for like gherkin size, but these are good ones to make some spears with and can them. I think I got one more here. Yep, there we go. I'm gonna let that one, since it's a little bit smaller than these, I'm gonna let that one go just a little bit further. But yeah, that's starting to put out some vines here. Let me move the watermelon out of the way. There's a watermelon down there. Didn't even know that. Yeah, so the vine is starting to grow out, so it's doing fine. Well, let me show you the watermelon since we're here. These were the 2 watermelons, the original watermelons I planted. Those are the other 2. They're just getting started now. But these have been growing for a little while, and they're out here and they're producing watermelons. Here's a small one right there, but back here is a bigger one. There we go. Yeah, let me back out here. There we go. So we got a nice little watermelon, and these are also sugar bush. These are the icebox variety of watermelon, so they stay small, and they're very tasty. And then I just saw, as I said, over here, I just saw another watermelon that looks like it got fertilized right there. So that might turn into one. So we'll have 2 or 3 at least. And once these plants really get going, as well as those 2, we should end up with a half dozen or more watermelon. What the hell I'm going to do with all that watermelon, I don't know. That's not watermelon. That's watermelon. What is that? Let's go find out. At least this time I labeled everything. Well, while I'm here, my carrots that I planted in the buckets in the container, they're growing fine, putting on some size. The ones in the bed aren't anywhere near this big, but it's they're coming along. I think they were planted a couple of weeks after these, so it's not surprising that these are doing much better than the others. But let's go find out what that is. Might be butternut squash. Wrong again. It's cantaloupe. This is the home save seed that I planted. Took a little time to get started and get going, but now it's starting to put on vines. So I'm hoping to get a few cantaloupe out of this. So yeah, they're doing okay. They're looking good anyway, looking healthy. And once the vines start to really develop, we'll get some fruit on there. Having mentioned the butternut squash, this is the one that I planted in the cornfield. This is where I had my corn, the bed I had my corn in, and I actually still have to smooth out the soil here. But this is growing much more vigorously than I anticipated. I've grown butternut squash before, and while I've had some big vines, this looks like it's going to be really big. I'm trying to think if this was from home save seed or not. Not sure. I don't think so, since it's not marked on my label, and I usually mark it if it is my own seed. But it's growing down here. We just started getting the male flowers. Haven't gotten any female flowers yet. Haven't seen any fruit forming. Having said that, I see one right over there. Really tiny. So it looks like the first fruit is forming right here, and hopefully I'll get some more male flowers now that I got some fruit forming. It was either this morning or yesterday morning, the male flowers were tall and bright, and now all gone. Yeah, so I think that's the first fruit I've seen. Well, it definitely is the first one I've seen. I'm not sure if that's the first one. While we're back here, this is the rest of the seed that was in the carrot seed that was in the bed that I planted. Very spotty germination, and looking a little scraggly, but we'll see what comes out. But got a few carrots out of it anyway, and any carrot is a good carrot. These are the kidney beans that I planted the other week, and spotty germination on these. Not nearly as good as I had anticipated, but it'll probably get us a bowl or two of chili out of it when they ripen. But I've done much better with the Great Northern bean, the white beans. So I've had much better success with these beans in this bed. Had much greater germination, and interestingly, at this end had really good germination, less so. And this is more in the sun here than that is, so I don't know if that's has anything to do with it, but they're growing good, and looking forward to them producing some beans for us. Right next door is the celery, which is doing good. A lot of thin stalks, as you can see, but there's some decent ones too, particularly as you work your way through the forest here. Yeah, it's really tough to tell, but I've seen some really decent celery stalks. I think this plant in particular back here has some decent stalks on it. Even if they're a little thin, I mean, it's not so bad. But plants look really healthy and growing strong. In the opposite corner is my parsnips. Now, I do have the parsnips growing in that barrel. They're not looking nearly as strong as these, and these still have a long way to go yet. So we'll looking forward to seeing how the difference between the ones grown in the ground and the ones grown in the barrel, and how they differ, if they do differ at all. I should mention these are home saved seeds. These are from Roma tomatoes that I got last year, and I'm happy to see that they are producing. So at the entrance to my garden, I have two tomato plants. These were home saved tomatoes, seeds again, and this was from the volunteer tomato that grew last year in the small trellis that I had set up, and I let it grow, and I saved the seeds from it because I liked the tomatoes. They were nice and big, and it's producing to form. I picked a bunch off of here already, and you can see it's got a bunch of nice tomatoes on here. So it worked out well. I'm going to save some seed again this year from one or two tomatoes. Keep the supply coming. Over here, I thought this was a slicing tomato. It's been growing as a vine. It's about 5 feet tall right now, and it looks like it's going to continue growing up. But these look like Roma tomatoes, if you ask me. Yeah, I got a semi-ripe one down here. Let's pull that off. And I've been pulling them off a little bit early and letting them ripe up inside, but that looks like a Roma tomato to me. Maybe I just mislabeled my plants. I didn't think I did, but maybe I did. And it's funny because down at the Victory Garden, I've got however many Roma tomatoes down there, but there's one plant there that the tomatoes look like this one. Big, beefy, slicing tomatoes. And I did replace a plant or two that had died, a tomato plant, with a leftover, and I'm pretty sure they were labeled Romas. But again, probably mislabeling on my part. But we're getting more tomatoes, so you can't argue with that. It's just that it's interesting that this is growing like a vine, and it's getting really tall, and yet it's producing what looks like Roma tomatoes. So this is this year's volunteer tomato, and it's reached the top of the trellis, which is 8 feet tall, and it looks like it's a cherry or grape tomato. Got a couple that are ripe down here that I'm going to take, and not quite sure. There's a nice little bunch down there that I got. And so these are perfect for salads and stuff like that. Yeah, it started growing here, so I just let it grow. So I'm not sure how I got a cherry tomato here, since again, this is just a volunteer, and I had the big slicing tomato here last year. So where a cherry grape tomato came from, who knows? But it's here. Over here, this is a butternut squash. It was slow to get started, but it's growing now, and I see the vine is way out here, so I'm just going to help it through. And have it come up this side. Over on this side, no fruit yet. Starting over there, no flower. Well, actually, male flowers down there. So, should get some female flowers soon. Over here, this is more cantaloupe. I've got two vines here, and these are also slow starting, but then again, this is a wild cherry tree that I had pollarded, and it's grown back, and now it overshadows this thing. This tree was 20 something feet tall when I pollarded it down to there, and then these branches came out, and I trimmed them every year, but this year it just grew massive. But I don't want it shading my trellis here or my sweet potatoes right here, which are looking super luscious and healthy. So I'm going to be cutting that down too this fall and getting rid of it. But the sweet potatoes, well, they're a mystery. You never know what you're going to get until the end. And if you recall my harvest last year, it was not good. There was nothing, but the plants didn't look anywhere near this healthy. So I'm counting on this lush growth indicating that there's potatoes forming underneath. There was no fertilizer put in the soil at all. Just set fallow over the winter, and nothing was done to the soil from last year's sweet potatoes. I was afraid of putting in any fertilizer. Not that I wanted barren soil, but I didn't want to have too much nutrients there that I'd just get flat leaves and no sweet potatoes. So we'll see what happens this year. But I'm hopeful because, like I said, this looks very healthy. And last year, it did not look this good. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with how this part of the garden's coming along. Like I said, we've done pretty good so far. With got a lot of peppers out of the Victory Garden. I didn't film any of that because I'm down there at like 5 o'clock in the morning and it's very dark. But if you want to see what we were doing in the garden last week, check out this video right here and then subscribe and hit that notification bell. And that way we'll follow along on the progress on all of our vegetables as we try to grow a supermarket in our own backyard. Let's grow something awesome. Thanks for watching.